Hello, everybody, and good evening. My name is Don Arleth, and you're watching World News Tonight, live from Warsaw. Leaders agree at the Munich Security Conference that the global order is changing. The U.S. wants Europe to help save the West, and Europe considers more strategic autonomy. We'll have more on that in just a moment, but first, tonight's headlines. Tens of thousands rally in support of Czech President Petr Pavel, warning against a Hungarian scenario. From Munich to Bratislava, U.S. Secretary of State makes first visit to Slovakia in over 7 years. And Perogi mania, Poland's Perogi plush mascot, sells out in the United States. We start off tonight in Bavaria, where the Munich Security Conference has come to a close. The meeting saw some of the world's top leaders, military brass, and experts converge to discuss transatlantic relations, bolstering defense in Europe, ending the war in Ukraine, and peace in the Middle East. Our correspondents, Aaron Dahmen and Marcin Zaborowski, have a wrap-up of the event.
Well, just like that, the 62nd Munich Security Conference has come to an end. I'm here with TVP World Europe editor Marcin Zaborowski. Marcin, I just spoke to someone who said it's like the Met Gala of politics. A little bit less glitzy and glammy, but all the leaders are here.
As the chairman of the Munich Security Conference, Mr. Ischinger, said at the opening, this Munich Security Conference is like the seismograph of where we are in transatlantic relations. But we had a very bumpy year in transatlantic relations, that's for sure, including things like weaponization of trade relations, including Greenland, so a threat to one of America's allies at the end of the day. This year, when Marco Rubio came here, there was already at the beginning some expectation that he's a chief diplomat, it would be perhaps nicer, more diplomatic.
It is his job, right, as the diplomat?
It is his job, and it actually happened. I mean, his speech was reassuring. And as Ischinger also said, it was welcomed with a sigh of relief. Yeah? It was nice.
I spoke to Radosław Sikorski, Poland's Deputy Prime Minister, Foreign Minister. He's spoken to Marco Rubio, and he said to me, look, I'm not sure if ending the war or finding peace is a priority right now for the United States. What is the sense that you get from being here, where things stand for Ukraine?
I think Ukraine remains the most essential story here at this conference, other than the health of transatlantic relationship. I mean,
we have Ukraine House just down here from the rooftop.
Absolutely. So everybody spoke about Ukraine here, but actually not Marco Rubio. For United States, the most important thing is that the war actually ends, not how it ends. And for us here in Europe, because we are next door from Ukraine, it is very important how it ends. But it ends in terms which are acceptable for Ukrainians and for us in Europe.
We spoke to a couple of presidents, the president of Lithuania, we spoke to the president of Latvia. What are some of the other key takeaways that you will go back to Warsaw with?
Europe needs to acquire an ability to act on its own. But it needs to acquire this famous strategic autonomy. But of course we want to be partnered with the United States, but let's just face it, it can come to the situation in which we can no longer rely on the United States, and we have to be able to do it on our own. Now the key question is how this is going to be done. President Macron and German Chancellor were saying it should be a coalition of the willing, most capable states riding European defense forward. Smaller countries like Latvia, Lithuania, but also middle-sized powers like Poland are not entirely comfortable with European defense being run forward by a club of big boys.
This event every year always gives us a bit of a glimpse, I think, into not just what leaders are saying here, but what they are going to do. So I guess we really have to watch this space. Marcin Zaborowski, TVP World's Europe editor from Munich, and me, Aaron Dahmen, reporting from the Munich Security Conference on the rooftop of the iconic Hotel Bayerischer Hof.
The leader of Hungary's main opposition party, Péter Magyar, held his own State of the Nation address on Sunday, where he outlined his party's foreign policies should it win the general election on April 12th. He is opposed to the EU's Migration Pact and fast-track EU membership, but he emphasized that the Visegrad Group, currently dead in his opinion, should be revitalized. Our correspondent in Hungary, Andrew Sweeney, has more.
Péter Magyar, the leader of the Tisza party, outlined his key foreign policy priorities today in his State of the Nation address. His party is currently 10 to 12% ahead in the polls, for Hungary's general elections on April 12th. He said he's against the EU Migrant Pact. He does not support fast-track membership for Ukraine in the EU either. However, he does support the Visegrad Group. He believes it's been dead for some time. And when I asked him during a press conference after his speech, he made it clear that he wants to revitalise this group.
For me personally, the 1,000-year-long Hungarian-Polish relationship crucial, and to strengthen this relationship, rather a friendship than a relationship. And of course, a strong V4 could be based only a Polish-Hungarian relationship, friendship. So that's why the first step is to restore, to strengthen the Polish-Hungarian friendship. And I see a very good chance to achieve it very quickly. And as far as I remember, as a diplomat in Brussels, the V4, the Visegrad 4, was always a very strong interest group. They had the same vote like Germany and France together at that time. So we were able to block or modify several suggestions or commission proposals. And nowadays it's almost impossible because the Visegrad 4 doesn't exist anymore, or not a lively group anymore. So after restoring the Polish-Hungarian relationship, I think with your Prime Minister, we will be able to contact immediately the Czech and the Slovak Prime Minister to strengthen the V4 group.
US Secretary of State Marco Rubio is touching down in Budapest to meet with Viktor Orban, the country's Prime Minister. His Fidesz party is suffering in those polls, and he will be hoping that a visit of a senior US administration official will help bolster his support amongst the Hungarian domestic electorate. For TVP World in Budapest, Andrew Sweeney.
Thousands rallied across the Czech Republic on Sunday in support of President Petr Pavel amid a dispute between the president and the parties from the ruling coalition. Organized by Million Moments for Democracy, protests in more than 400 locations warned against what activists called a Slovak and Hungarian scenario that could weaken democratic institutions and public media. Michael van Bloemstein reports.
The Czechs won't let up. Across the Czech Republic, protesters have taken to the streets again on Sunday to show their support for President Petr Pavel in his standoff against the government of Prime Minister Andrej Babiš. Despite Babiš taking office almost 2 months ago, the president's refusal to sign off on the appointment of the controversial Filip Turek as Minister of Environment has the government and Petr Pavel embroiled in a standoff. The president can keep blocking Turek indefinitely, but
on the other hand, the government will say we have been elected as a government and he's only a president and the president is a ceremonial post in the Czech Republic.
Allegations against Filip Turek include throwing a Nazi salute and showcasing National Socialist paraphernalia. Still, a vote of no confidence on the issue was defeated in Parliament earlier this month. So Turek has the backing from Parliament.
But president of our country, Petr Pavel, is most popular politician in the country. Also, this fight shows that they cannot never win.
Such claims are backed up by a recent poll showing Pavel leads in trust numbers, well ahead of Prime Minister Andrej Babiš, who comes in 5th. By contrast, both Filip Turek and the leader of his party, Petr Macinka, are way down in the list and thoroughly underwater among voters. That and the argument that Pavel gained more votes in his 2023 election than the current government coalition got last year means the president is for now not blinking.
I consider threats and blackmail against the president by a government minister to be completely unacceptable in any democratic country. At the same time, I consider it important for citizens to see how their elected representatives represent their interests and in what way.
The group behind the ongoing protests has a history of showing discontent against what they see as anti-democratic former communist forces. In 2019, the Million Moments for Democracy organization got crowds of up to 250,000 people on the streets. The question remains how effective the ongoing demonstrations will be in convincing average voters going forward.
because the main source of destabilization internally of the Czech Republic is the economic insecurity.
Whether the Eurosceptic, Kremlin-friendly coalition or the staunch ally of Ukraine will be able to assert dominance in Czech politics going forward could have consequences for the country's policies towards the EU and Kyiv. For TVP World, Michiel van Blommestein.
At least 3 people were killed and 15 wounded in Russian attacks across Ukraine over the past day, as Moscow launched dozens of drones in its latest wave of strikes, Ukrainian officials said. President Volodymyr Zelensky said that Russia has sharply intensified its aerial assault in recent days, targeting energy infrastructure as well as residential areas. Oz Chatterjee has more from Kyiv.
3 people have been killed and 15 others injured in Russian attacks across Ukraine over the last 24 hours, with the Ukrainian Air Force reporting that Russia launched 83 drones into Ukrainian territory late on Saturday evening and early into the early hours of Sunday morning. Russia once again targeted Ukraine's energy infrastructure, as confirmed by Ukrainian officials. Now, President Zelensky has been in Munich for the Munich Security Conference and posted a statement about these attacks, saying that Ukraine's allies are expected to provide further support in the field of military support and support for Ukraine's struggling energy sector within the next 10 days. So that should arrive before the 4th anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. President Zelensky says that over the last week, Russia launched 1,300 drones, 1,200 glide bombs and 50 missiles of various kinds across the country. President Zelensky also urged his allies to help provide Ukraine with that assistance as quickly as possible, saying Ukraine needs air defense every day to deprive Russia of leverage through terror. Well, temperatures still below freezing, as you can see around me. We're in the midst of a snowstorm here in the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv, and while this is taking place, Russia continues to strike Ukraine's energy infrastructure, causing power cuts. As you can see behind me, very little electricity out on these streets, powering the lights here in the capital of Kyiv. So President Zelensky urging his allies to provide Ukraine with the air defense supplies it needs, as Russia is expected to continue targeting Ukraine's energy sector throughout the rest of the winter. I'm Oz Chatterjee reporting from Kyiv for TVP World.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is visiting Slovakia and Hungary at a pivotal moment for transatlantic unity, seeking closer cooperation with 2 governments that often chart an independent course within the European Union. The talks focused on energy and NATO commitments. Both countries maintain warm ties with President Donald Trump, bringing fresh attention to Washington's engagement in the region.
Rubio began his 2-day diplomatic tour through Central Europe and Bratislava, holding high-level talks with Slovakian President Petr Pellegrini to discuss regional security and NATO commitments.
My first ever meeting with Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Bratislava reaffirms the unbreakable bond between Slovakia and the United States, both bilaterally and within NATO. Defense cooperation continues to be essential in the modernization of Slovakia's armed forces, thus contributing to a more robust NATO deterrence and defense, and to a stronger and more confident Europe.
A central pillar of the visit is energy cooperation, specifically a potential €15 billion deal for the U.S. company Westinghouse to build a new nuclear power plant in Slovakia. Slovakian Prime Minister Robert Fico, who recently met with President Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago, remains a key ally for the administration. Energy prices are an important part of his agenda.
On February 13th, an intergovernmental agreement between the US and Slovakia regarding nuclear cooperation entered into force. I informed the Secretary of where we stand. We have huge interest in creating a multinational consortium under an American partner to guarantee that by 2040, Slovakia could build another nuclear block with a 1,200 megawatt capacity.
Fico also highlighted Slovakia's disagreement with most of Europe on Ukraine.
Slovakia has its own original, unique positions that do not always align with our EU partners. This is part of our sovereignty. I clearly stated our view of the conflict to the Secretary. We believe it will continue for quite a long time. We do not see a path to peaceful conclusion in the short term.
On Monday, Rubio will travel from Bratislava to Budapest to meet with Prime Minister Viktor Orban, another leader the U.S. administration views as a model for conservative governance.
From all the European countries that Rubio could have chosen for his trip, he decided to go to Bratislava and Hungary. And again, as I say, Marco Rubio has met Prime Minister Fico just a couple of weeks ago in Mar-a-Lago with Donald Trump at their meeting in Florida. So him coming back so early to Slovakia is a deliberate step on the side of the United States. And yes, as you say, these countries are the most visible troublemakers, so to say, in the European family.
For TVP World, Randy Potts.
Poland's unofficial Olympics mascot continues to win over hearts all over the world. In the United States, the only store offering the original Perogushka has run out of stock, as fans have rushed to get their hands on the Perogi plushie.
All of the Perogushka stock has sold out at the Pierożek restaurant in Brooklyn. The traditional Polish eatery, which happens to be the only Michelin-starred Polish restaurant in the US, is the only place that offers the viral mascot in the country.
We've got hundreds, if not thousands, of emails I would have to actually check, and lots of phone calls, but unfortunately, they literally sold out overnight.
For Kucharski and his staff, pierogi are much more than just a dish.
It's our international logo, so to speak.
I love to see people embracing our culture and celebrating it.
The mascot became a global hit after a picture of Polish athletes holding the adorable plushie went viral on social media.
It was a purely spontaneous move by one of Poland's representatives in figure skating, who simply bought one of our Perogushka and then, moments before the photo shoot, decided that she wanted to show it off. And that's when it all began.
The viral mascot is sold by the Katowice-based company Luft. The pillows are handmade by people with disabilities, and the company has just over a dozen employees.
We are a cooperative and we do not operate for profit, but operate to provide stable employment and integrate people with intellectual disabilities.
The adorable plush toy has taken the world by storm, and even the world-famous rapper Snoop Dogg has expressed a desire to get a hold of a plush Perogushka. But since the plushie is now all but sold out, it seems that celebrities and fans alike will have to wait for a fresh batch. For TVP World, Gabriela Fesnak.
And now for an interview from the Munich Security Conference, Marcin Zaborowski sits down with the president of Latvia, Edgars Rinkēvičs.
You're watching an exclusive interview with the President of Latvia, Mr. Edgars Rinkēvičs. Mr. President, great pleasure to have you here. Very happy that you agreed to talk to us. Well, we've been here now for a third day. So a lot of things happened at the Munich Security Conference. As the chair of Munich Security Conference, Mr. Ischinger, is saying this is like a seismograph of transatlantic relations. You probably were here last year too, so you must recall the famous speech of Vice President J.D. Vance. This year, Marco Rubio made the speech, which is considered to be very conciliatory, or more conciliatory. And it's been welcomed by the sigh of relief, according to the chairman, Mr. Wolfgang Ischinger. Were you one of these people who also felt relieved after the speech?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me back. It's great to be here. I think that what we have seen throughout the whole conference actually is, of course, much calmer attitude from both, from our American friends and partners, but also from many Europeans. To some extent, I would say that I liked Secretary Rubio's speech, and I would say that I would, to some extent, subscribe to each and every word for two reasons. The first reason, I think that there was a very strong message that, by the way, we heard also from other American officials, from President Trump, and cabinet members and also members from the Congress throughout this year, that America needs Europe, America needs strong Europe, and America needs transatlantic alliance and partnership. That is something that you often hear as question in doubt. And I think this kind of reassurance was very much needed. A second element that is very important is that Secretary Rubio and also Vice President last year and other American officials have presented their vision for excellent transatlantic relationship. Some elements we can agree on, some elements we can discuss on, some elements probably we will leave as disagreed ones. And from that point of view, I think that if we kind of put conferences in the sequence, if last year that was a bit kind of shock moment, everyone tried to understand where this is moving. A year after the Munich conference, we have seen already much clearer attitude by the American side. By the way, also European leaders have outlined what they believe European priorities are: defense, energy, digital sovereignty, support for Ukraine. So we have now clearly set kind of negotiating positions, and I hope that the next year's conference will be about finding common ground on those issues we can agree, and maybe to think what to do about those issues we disagree.
Mr. President, some of the commentators, actually quite a lot of them, said that actually what we witnessed this year was like a good cop act, and what we witnessed last year was a bad cop act. And the substance, when you look into that, is actually not that different. Do you subscribe to this view?
I think that many American administrations, not only President Trump, were asking us for many years to be much more serious about defense, to be much more serious about our own capabilities when it comes guarding our own territory, when it comes securing our own independence and freedom. This was done by President Bush. It was done by President Obama. It was done by President Trump in his first term, President Biden. And yes, indeed, we were moving to 2% defense spending target, now 5%. But let's admit, we are doing that very, very slowly. Energy dependency on Russia was another thing. The Baltic states were adamantly against building Nord Stream. Only the Russian invasion in Ukraine has actually put an end to this dependency, and we still have some countries that export a lot of things to Russia, unfortunately including also those countries that are staunch supporters of Ukraine and import a lot of Russian oil and gas. So from that point of view, I think that what is very important is the acknowledgement in the United States that transatlantic alliance is in the interests of the United States, clearly that they want to have a strong Europe. But yes, those elements about migration, about other things, those are something that we see as the policy of the United States. But let's admit, migration issues, issues that we face all in Europe. Poland and Latvia has a bit different challenge. That's the hybrid war organized by Lukashenko regime. But in other countries, this is the hot potato where you get people asking a lot of questions what the government should do about that or another issue, and that's, like it or not, is the problem that needs to be solved in a democratic way, and people's voices need to be listened. However, there have been also mistakes, and those mistakes are now paying off.
Mr. President, the Chancellor Friedrich Merz and Secretary Marco Rubio, both they mentioned that we live in a new age of geopolitics. And Friedrich Merz also said that this is a new age of great powers politics now, which is, departure from the rules-based order. Well, where does it leave countries like Latvia?
Well, I think that the post-Cold War era is over, and that world order has gone. And it's gone not, let's say, last year here at Munich. It's gone by the Russian invasion of Georgia, of the occupation of Crimea, of a war that has started 4 years ago, the full-scale war that Russia started against Ukraine. And we have seen clear inability of international system to deal with that efficiency, in an efficient way. So, yes, I agree that there is emerging new order. Yes, I agree that there is a kind of desire to divide world in the spheres of influence, and I think that history of the Baltic states of Latvia or Poland or many other countries in the Central and Eastern Europe show that this is very dangerous. It's dangerous for our existence, and we need to take this very, very seriously. But at the same time, I think that then we have to ask the question about great powers. Do we consider China, the United States as great powers? Yes. The big question is about Russia. Yes, it's a dangerous regional power. It presents clear and present danger. But in Europe, can we say that France, Germany, the United Kingdom or Italy or Spain are great powers compared to the United States or to China? No. Together as the European Union, as a European power, yes. But then we must act together. And then even great powers will need order, some kind of rules that we all follow. And I think this is emerging. This is a dangerous situation. But unlike back in 1920s, 1930s, we are part of NATO and European Union. We invest a lot in the regional cooperation, and I think that's the current response. So when asked what's our defense, I'm saying the first, it's our national defense. Second, it's regional defense, including our Nordic-Baltic partners, Poland and Germany, as the Baltic Sea. Third, it's Europe. Fourth, it's transatlantic relationship, because we do see that, well, there is a lot of rhetoric, but there is also a lot of practical cooperation with the United States and Canada going on.
Mr. President, Latvia, the other Baltic states and Poland, they design their defense policy on the assumption of the viability of Article 5, viability of NATO. But Poland is also preparing plans for self-defense in case NATO fails. Is it something that Latvia and other Baltic states are looking into too?
Well, as I said, national defense, regional defense, European defense, transatlantic defense. But it's all under NATO's and the EU's umbrella.
Okay. Chancellor Merz and Emmanuel Macron, they both said that we need to reorganize European defense around the coalition of the willing and coalition of the able. And they mentioned a number of big countries in that. Neither Poland nor Latvia was there. Did it not worry you?
Well, I think we have now a kind of process where we have different formats. For instance, when it comes to Ukraine, we have coalition of the willing.
Yeah.
We have Berlin format, we have Washington group, we have E3, we have still EU format, and we have NATO format. Look, I think that if we talk about European defense, then let's be clear. The only region that faces real threat, and if we are capable of building our defense, I think it's going to be a theoretical threat. If we fail, it's going to be a very practical threat. Is the Baltic region, it's Poland, it's what we call eastern flank. So coalition of the willing and able should be formed in order to protect all of Europe, including us, and talking with leaders of big powers in Europe and not so big powers, we understand that actually we are in. And we are the member of the coalition of the willing. And yes, indeed, by putting more investment in defense, of course, Latvia being a small country will never be able to be with the big army as Poland, but at least with a professional, capable, and also with conscription element added, it's going to do whatever it takes and how much it takes to defend the country with all the possible means. So from that point of view, I think it would be very difficult to all the time read a long list of countries that should be there. But definitely we see ourselves in this process, and we will be there. I am sure Poland will be there and Baltic states will be there.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for your time. We were speaking with the President of Latvia, Edgars Rinkēvičs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that concludes this edition of World News. Thanks for joining us. Have a great evening, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.